Because as part of the introduction, just like ask people something, one specific question, like what issue they've been working on this week, or something like, or what their most pressing issue is right now, even if it's not a core issue.
Yeah, so what I put on the agenda is there a reason you're here today in 30 seconds or less? So people aren't like, I'm here because I love blah.
I feel like that question's too vague. Like everybody says I'm here to help. And that's just, because I don't, I'm not here for one reason. I'm here for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, which is why I'm not going to say anything. Maybe pick your favorite reason you're here today. No.
Nope.
Do you want to go first? Maybe we can copy you.
Oh, did the meeting start?
Yes, we're on air.
My name's Tim. I'm here from Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim. I'm here from St. Paul. And I am, an issue that's been concerning me this week is a bug in the rules module. That is not a core thing, but it's something that I need to get fixed. Thanks.
Greg?
Greg from Melbourne. I have been less and less working on issues, which makes me sad, but I've been focusing on PMC issues lately. I'm excited about that, and I hope to get more time to work on exciting things next week.
Nate.
Hey, I'm Nate Lampton from Oakland, California, and I'm hoping to continue unblocking some stuff this week, although with Peter's onboarding, he's doing a lot of the unblocking for me, so I really appreciate that. So the areas that Peter can't unblock himself, then that's where I'm hoping to help this week.
That's great. Peter? I'm not sure Peter can talk, but he's joining us from Estonia. Joseph.
I'm Joseph. I'm from Las Vegas, and I've been mostly working on test framework stuff, and then I guess now I'm getting back into theme setting stuff.
I am Jen Lampton. I'm also from Oakland, California, and I am working on finishing up some module boards today that are related to an upgrade that I just did. So I'm excited about that. Let's see. We have this week a couple of new contributed projects, which is exciting. We have Pretty Calendar, Menu per Role, Views Flipped Table, and File Field Paths. Which all came out since last Thursday. So there's a lot of activity in Contrib. So thanks everybody for continued work on Contrib. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Nate to give us an update on Vector. Nate's muted.
Hello. So it looks like we're going to have a pretty standard set of updates this week. 1.15.1 is our next bug fix release that will be released as needed. The only issue that we've got that is prioritized for these meetings is making tests faster, issue 4306. Both Joseph and I had some back and forth on that this past week. I posted a review and I reran the tests a couple of times and found that we were having some race condition issues. But Joseph went in and addressed those changes. And so now the race conditions in theory should be fixed, but I'm rerunning the test a couple more times to make sure we don't reintroduce new intermittent failures, which nobody likes those. So that issue still looks like it's coming along pretty well. It's still marked needs review, and we'll just see how the test runs pan out. So we'll run that 3 or 4 times and make sure we don't get any random failures. So it's looking great. Joseph, is there anything else you'd like to add about that?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, yeah, it's looking great. Lots of other issues that are tagged in the 1.15.1 milestone. You can check out the 1.15.1 milestone on GitHub. There's currently 65 issues in there. So a whole slew of things that could potentially move in the near future. 116 is the next minor release that will be released May 15th with feature freeze on May 1st, 2020. And we have a number of issues that have been moving along this week. So first off, we've got enable autocomplete on all link and path fields, issue 3764. BW Panda or Peter is the advocate for that, but I'm not sure that he can speak. But if he can, feel free to interject right now. But I'm just going to go ahead and say the update on that, which is it's fixed. Yay! So 3764. Let's see what the status of that was. So BW Panda merged it in yesterday after Doc Wilmont had given it the ready to be committed. Thank you, Peter, for filling out your new role as core committer and going through and cleaning up some of these items that have been marked RTBC. So that's super cool. Let's see, next up, color module does not work with subthemes. Joseph added this just before the start of the meeting, issue 3348. Kind of a bug, kind of a feature that subthemes, if you try to inherit from a theme that includes color support, such as Basis, then the subtheme doesn't work properly with the color module. And so those changes have been marked RTBC. And so that's super great. Joseph, is there anything you'd like to add about that issue?
I think that's it. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like.
Okay. Also related to sub things and child things, the next issue is 3174, which is related to install profiles. This issue makes it possible to have sub install profiles, and this functionality has not previously existed at all, and so it's slated for 116. Issue 3174 just makes it so that the base profiles run and then the child profiles then run after it. So in some ways, this makes it so that profiles act more like some other systems, like themes. But yeah, the status of that one is that it currently needs some code review. It's been marked works for me, but we need eyeballs on it to check if the code all makes sense and if it's fully ready to go.
Yeah, there was also an idea there to make an example of this use case in core, as in so we can have tests for it. And the ideas there was to make either the standard profile or the testing profile be a sub themes of the minimal one.
Mm-hmm. Right. I haven't posted anything to that issue, but I think that the testing profile has a special purpose that we may need to make a new profile that is just like a test sub profile, if you will, that does nothing except for server purposes, be a test sub profile.
And would it be of any benefit to make the standard profile a sub theme, a sub profile of minimal, if all it does is adds on top of minimal? I know there's a potential of breaking things, but it is also a good way to know if we break things in the future, because that feature, like the dependency thing, would be in core.
Yeah, I
personally think that's the perfect use of it, because I mean we've got a minimal install profile that does very minimal things, and the standard one which adds on top of that. So I'd say that's. I mean, I saw Greg's suggestion to do that. I just haven't gotten to it yet. It's on my to-do list, but yeah, I hope to try and get to that. Put that into the pull request and then see how the test handle that. But yeah, I think that'd be a good idea to make standard run after minimal does its thing.
Yeah, I might put some reservations on that if it makes it so that we're doing some things twice, like updating a profile, or sorry, updating a user role twice to set two different permissions, or There could be some things that if you're creating something in a sub profile, you might not expect something in the base profile to have already created it. So I don't know if it actually affects the speed at which the standard profile can install. I might want to avoid it. I might also be concerned that it's more places to look, you know, like if I were updating the standard profile, now I have to look in 2 places instead of 1. So yeah, but also agree with BW Panda that it could reduce some code duplication, maybe, but we'll see. Let's see. Any other thoughts on that issue? Okay. Okay, next up, allow customization of the author and date display, issue 2379. Tim, you're the advocate for this one. Can you give us a status update on it?
So we talked a little bit about it last week. I have a question for Gregory, which is, Gregory, you last posted that you had some questions about your question about the comments you had left in the. Did you get those answered last week, or do you still need some people to sort of review those? You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, and I was also typing on another issue. Which one are you asking for now?
The allow per content type customizations of author and date. You had put some comments on the pull request, and then you asked for sort of feedback on your comments. We talked a little bit about it last week, and I wasn't sure if you got all your questions answered.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll respond to that ticket. So my main concern was that we're replacing a string that was translatable with something that may not or may need some work. I'll need to test the pull request and think more on that.
Okay. My other comment on this issue would be that it, in theory, is pretty close to being finished, but only 4 people have commented on it since the pull request, including Jen. I don't know if you've actually looked at it yet, and so it might be really good if you were able to look at it and make sure that so that that doesn't flare up at the last second.
Yeah.
Right, if you were to look at it soon. Okay. So I think that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but in general, I think that it's a cool feature to allow people to customize it. It has been asked in the past here and there in a few other tickets.
Yep. That's really all I have to report. So we just need some people to look at the code, and we need a few more people to just sort of look and make sure they agree with the concept. So,
Callie. Oh, sorry. I meant to mute when I yelled at the dog instead of unmuting.
okay, who's in charge?
So I think the next issue, if we're done with text formats, is author date formats. The next one is text formats. And Gregory, I don't know if you have an update for us on that.
Oh, no, it just needs, so last update is that Dr. Wilmot has filed a pull request based off of your last pull request. So
that's the disabled text formats one. There's also the UI one, text format configuration UI.
Oh, yes, that's right. So where were we left with that? The Doc Wilmot again has implemented it in a dialogue, in the dialogues way. So Peter and Nate had problems. Sorry?
Either way, Doc Wilmot's fixed the problems.
Yes, he addressed it in a way, but then we had concerns about the way that it was done, about JavaScript being used. But maybe now that Nate is back, maybe he can chime in on that. I think that, yeah, anyways, Nate, would you like to comment on? We were discussing about 1032.
Okay. Let's see. I haven't had a look at this recently. I'm not sure that I'm prepared to comment on it. Is it something that I can say without having read it further.
Yeah, just sum up the concerns that we had with the implementation as it was presented in the last pull request. I think
Oh,
that the
right,
concerns
right.
were around, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so we had some concerns that the way it had been implemented was that it was all JavaScript implementation like on top of the current form, that it was still one big form on one page, but using JavaScript to take out sections of the form and then put them in dialogues introduced kind of weird problems like the validation is server side, but you would submit the dialogue and the dialogue would close regardless of whether or not there were any validation errors. And then only when you submitted the form would the validation actually fire. And so that was just strange, that the expectation is that, you know, when you close a dialogue, the form within that dialogue is validated before it closes. And so the new approach that I think we're planning on taking is that we'll use the state system similar to what we do for views and layouts, and make it so that the configuration of each filter format is done on a separate form. And if you have JavaScript enabled, that separate form opens up into the dialog. And so that makes it so that we would validate each individual text filter configuration individually. And then update a temporary like state like a temporary text format in the temp store table. Sorry, not the state table. So temp store is where temporary views and temporary layouts are stored. And then there's one big validation that happens on the whole thing before the whole thing is saved. So I think that's the approach that we're going to take, basically imitating those other two systems and applying it to text formats. Does that sound
Yes.
comprehensive?
Yes, and then there were a few satellite issues around that, as in, for example, what comes to mind is that if you disable certain tags via the filter that allows you to specify which tags, then the respective buttons for it, they shouldn't appear in the form. And it's a more of a UX workflow issue where people disable things and then they show up as buttons still. So
yeah, which we should have the opportunity to fix that. Admittedly, even before, it wasn't very clear that when you were doing something like dragging in a button for, like if you dragged in the bold button, the strong tag would automatically be enabled. And because that happened in a different part of the form, it wasn't super clear that that happened anyway. And so what we can do now is we should make it so that when you drag in a button into, say, CKEditor's toolbar, there should be a message on the form that you're configuring, which I guess now would be inside of a dialog, that says that the strong tag is going to be added. But interesting, because it's not in the same page anymore. We would update it like in the temp store version, like at the time that you submit the dialog.
So the test that I was done was the opposite, actually. I removed intentionally the strong tag and the button was still available there.
Oh, right.
So I wasn't expecting, so as a site builder, I expected, because I removed the tag from that text format, the button shouldn't be there at all, because then I don't want accidentally to pull that button there. But then you bring a nice point there, that if you put the button, then you would also expect the tag to be automatically added, maybe with a message saying that this has been done because it's done magically for you.
Right. Yeah, it does it in that direction right now, or the current backdrop core does that right now. I'm not sure about what it does in the pull request. But
yes, so what I've tested was, I went to the filter, I removed intentionally the bold tag, and I saved the filter, and when I went back to edit it, the bold button was still there.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's an expected behavior. I don't think it is.
Yeah, that maybe the inverse should also happen, that if you remove the strong tag, something should happen. Either a message should appear saying it's going to remove the bold button from CKEditor, or it should throw a validation and say this the bold button requires the strong tag.
my thought on how this would be solved was that the button stays there, but it gets disabled and undraggable anymore. So you have a hint that it's grayed out, and maybe a message that says some buttons have been disabled because filter X has removed. It does not include that type or something like that.
Oh, But
Because last time I checked, there's I think the way that the buttons are being added, it's like there's classes added to them, so we can add something that makes them appear as disabled and do not have the draggable thing. But it would need some more. This can be a follow-up, by the way.
yeah. Yeah, I think that it would be, yeah, I don't know. There's two sides to it. I think that it would be easier for a user to allow the button to be draggable and automatically enable it for them, rather than make them close the dialog, go someplace else, open another dialog, add the strong tag, then go back to where they were to drag the button in.
So the dragging of the buttons currently is not happening in the dialog. It's right there in the form.
That's still outside of it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I
A
think
little bit more testing will flesh it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's basically still, yeah, that's still in flux. The status that we have in the agenda here is that it needs code review and testing, but I don't think it's that far. I think that we've kind of have rewound it, yeah, so that it needs work. We need to take a different tack on that one. Okay, let's see. Let's move on. Next up is Gregory, the issue that you're an advocate for, 1575, provide a way to re-enable disabled text formats. Can you give us an update?
This is the one that I was wrongfully sort of like giving an update before. So where that's at is that Doc Wilmot has filed a pull request based off of Jen's last pull request, where he's implemented things in a way that doesn't affect the available or authorized, I should say, text formats the way that the previous pull request was doing it. It just needs testing and code review. That's where it's at. So the problem that we had back in September in 1.14, that was the way that it was implemented, would make it so that people would have access to formats that they were not meant to have access.
Yep. Okay. So that's still, it looks like it's been in that state for several weeks now. It really needs a code review. Okay. Last up is better workflow states. This issue that has been all over the place. Doc Wilmot is the advocate for it. It's issue 1475. I think Tim would be the best person to summarize this, if you'd be willing, Tim.
I think I'm just going to say that the next step was that like Jen and Gregory and I were going to try and do a quick conference call to talk about some of the comments. Although I can say one of the things that might have come up since we last talked about this is that I had been working under the impression that the underlying goal here was to make it possible for contrib themes to have more flexibility in declaring sort of different states on revisions. And Doc Wilmot clarified for me that in fact the current PR doesn't address that issue at all. It's addressing a UI thing, and he recommends that we kind of break this apart into two issues. So one of them that is what we're currently addressing, and the other one is what the original issue of the whole issue, was talked about. So within the next week, hopefully we will have done that, sort of split the two issues. We'll have come to a consensus on what the sort of current UI functionality is, and started a new issue with that larger, longer term goal.
Yeah, so basically the current pull request, what it does, it allows for forward revisions. The thing that was initially expected to be done, but now we're thinking to split off to a separate issue, is to be able to attach states to those revisions, I should say. Yeah, as in make forward revisions be under review or whatever, whether that is in core, or we sort of like build a foundation so that contrib can do that.
Okay, so sounds like a little bit more planning is in the works there.
Yep.
All right. That's what we've got for the 116 milestone. We can always add more issues to the 116 milestone based upon the issues that have advocates and that are in the 116 milestone on GitHub. So that's it, I think. Do you guys have anything you would like to discuss? Okay, that's it then. Thank you guys all very much for being in the meeting. Yeah, maybe you guys can use this extra time since we're done a little early.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Actually,
thanks everybody.
Sorry,
Yeah.
actually, there's a few things with regards to PMC decisions or blog posts. I know that this is not the meeting for it, but there's a few things and announcements that are pending. We already have the content, like with regards to new members or people stepping down. I'm not sure. Like, so we posted a blog post last week. Are we to do another one this week? And which one would that be?
Yeah, there should be one that goes up this week that just lists all of the new people. But we're still waiting for a vote from Nate on one of those before we can make an announcement.
Oh, my bad.
But if we vote on that today, we can schedule that post for tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
Ask Nate to get on it.
And Tim, I think we need your official vote too. I know you put it in the comment, but we need it on the.
No, I actually voted, and then yesterday, I think when I was like trying to see who voted, I unvoted
I've done that before too.
because I know 100% I voted like a week ago.
Okay.
Okay.
I fixed it.
Okay, thank you. And then I've got a draft of that post on backedupcms.org, but I don't think it saved all my words, so I'll have to go back and look at it again. I had it like open in a browser tab and then lost it.
Yeah, and I think also Nate's post is on a Google Doc somewhere. It might be better if it's in Backdrop in a draft mode so that we can publish it maybe the week after this one.
We wanted to schedule that for next Friday, Nate. So if you want to get it ready and schedule it, that would be good.
Okay, sounds good. Next Friday?
Yep.
Okay, the 20th. All right, sounds great. Okay, well, let's call it a meeting then.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, wait, Tim, Greg, do you want to stick around for a minute? We can talk about
Yes.
forward
Okay.
revisions. Okay, I'm going to end the video.
Yeah, all right, bye.
Great. Bye, everyone.